Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Infinity Flux letters page.
Nine.
I had to, I gotta give the visual aid too.
Yeah.
My name is Matt,
I'm Andy.
and this is our looser show, kind of the virtual equivalent of hanging out with your buddies in the comic book shop on a new comic book day. This is where we can actually talk to you while we are live streaming. So ask a question right now. We'll respond to it. We have a couple questions queued up. First of all, welcome back, Andy.
Thank
Andy's
you.
been gone for a week on vacation. I don't know who approved that. I'm going to send them a stern letter about it.
I'll direct your calls to wherever they need to go.
Good to have. Where's my mouse at? Good to have. What's up, Ram Comics? How you doing? Good to have Andy back. So we got a couple questions and not a whole lot else going on today. So we just thought we'd, talk a little bit about these questions and just see where the mood takes us. Of course, today is Absolute Batman #2 day. Today is G.I. Joe #1 day. All kinds of cool stuff coming out today. So we can maybe segue into that stuff. But we first wanted to do a couple of questions from our buddy Gorgrim. Asked us, this was a couple weeks ago. They asked, it seems like holiday season is some of the big books have slowed down. Is that usual for this season? And we'll go. You know more about this than me.
Yeah, it does vary year to year. I would say in general, yes. Like that was a feeling that if you were asking me last year, year before that, I'd be like, yeah, it does start slowing down towards November, December. Less like new #1s. It's more of just like the stuff coming out. But I would say this year it feels like things are ramping up.
Yeah.
We're getting more #1s, more like big event stuff going on. That I would say this year, no, it doesn't seem like it's slowing down. Now, if you're talking about the frequency of certain books coming out, that just varies based on what the book is, what the creative team is. I can't think of any books that maybe have missed a deadline or anything like that. I don't think anything is unusually slow.
No, there may have been some stuff that the FOC date got pushed back or something like that, but nothing crazy. When I saw this, I thought, well, yeah, like you said, normally it does slow down a little bit. Maybe the last week of the year, like that week after Christmas is usually there's not a lot going on. That's why we usually do like end of year recaps around that time, because there's not a whole lot of books to talk about. But this year, I don't know. I mean, I don't. We're gonna have to cram that in like off to the side because there are just so many things coming out. There are books being released on the week of Christmas. So Christmas falls on a Wednesday this year, and there are books coming out technically on the 25th, but your shop probably isn't going to be open that day, so more like the 26th. I do think that DC said that their books are going. The on sale date is going to be the 26th, which is Thursday.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean. We've said it before, we'll say it again, like it feels like there is so much stuff coming out now. Like I don't remember a year in recent memory where there's been this much stuff coming out. And it's, and that's a good problem to have, right? It's not even a problem. It's just a good thing to happen. You don't, it's much better to have too many comics and have to pick which ones you want than only have a few to choose from.
Yeah, there's been previous years where, I mean, it was, starting in October, it was dead through the rest of the year, just the way things fell. But this one, with DC having a bunch of new #1s coming out, and it feels like there's not going to be a noticeable break, even though I'm sure, like, mid-December through New Year's is going to maybe not be as big as before or as earlier in the year, but I think the momentum of the stuff we're getting is we're just gonna sail through that without even really noticing.
Yeah, it's funny because we've talked about it before. How there are some bad actors on YouTube and Twitter who like to say that the comics industry is dead and whatever. And we talked about it before. That's funny because the comics industry sure is cranking out a whole lot of product for it to be dead. Like there's stuff coming out all the time. Big books. We just did our top comics to pre-order in a Flash video where we talk about the top 10 books that you can pre-order by the weekend. And we had to cut out like 10 other books because there was already 10. Like we didn't have enough room for that. I had to skip a few books this past Monday because Andy wasn't here, and there were just too many books for me to get through on my own. So yeah, but again, I would rather it this way. I'd rather a whole bunch of stuff come out and then me just pick which ones that I want to read rather than, this is the only book this week. That's not great,
Yeah, the best problem to have is I buy these 3 comics And then the next week I hear someone say, "You didn't get this one? It was amazing." And I'm like, "Oh no, I gotta go back and get that now because everything's so good. I have to like scramble." But that's good rather than being like, I go into comic book store and I look around and I'm like, I guess there's nothing this week. No, there's something every
There's
week.
always something. And Ghost Machine is actually watching us on TikTok right now, and it says we have 2 number ones coming out in November. Rocket Fellers. Yes, which we have a preview copy of. You read it.
Yes.
I have not read it yet. We're very excited about that. And Hornsby and Halo, that's right. So Rocket Fellers on November 20th. Hornsby and Halo on November 27th. I'm excited for that November 27th date because there's a whole bunch of stuff coming out. And that's right before Thanksgiving when I've got a 4-day vacation or 4-day break. And
I am so excited for Rocket Fellers. So we got like an early digital like preview copy.
Yeah.
And I started to read it and I realized I wasn't doing the work I needed to be doing. And I had to stop myself because it immediately sucked me in. I love Francis Manapul is like one of my favorite artists. It was so good. It pulls you in right from the beginning. It feels adventure-y, like everything I want out of comics. Then we saw some previews from issue number 2, which I don't want to give away because I don't even know if it's like a spoiler or not, but just like broadens the horizons for these books even further. Plus, we haven't even got issue 2 of Hyde Street yet. Like,
there's so much good stuff.
So much good stuff from Ghost Machine that I know they're a sub publisher of Image, but it feels like, man, they just stand alone as their own entity.
And that Rocket Fellers, I haven't read the preview of number 1 yet, but that preview in the Ghost Machine preview book from a few months ago, that was one of my favorite stories in there. Like I love the concept, like science adventure, science family adventures, that kind of thing. Like I thought it was awesome. And then James wants to know, have you guys watched Scott Snyder's masterclass on how to write a comic book?
No. So I just learned about that. It's funny, like over this week while I was gone, I saw a thing about that. That it's kind of tied to his Substack. So I did the free subscription to the Substack, and it's like released in like podcast form. But I want to check out the full version of it because I think that'd be really interesting. I know he's talking about like what it's like to launch Absolute Batman, like what it to launch a book like that and everything. And I'm really, I really do want to check that out. I love so it's funny. We do these videos where we talk about new comics released and everything. I get my fill of that from us doing this show. If I'm watching YouTube or watching or listening to a podcast or something, I usually don't go for stuff like that. I love more of like the nuts and bolts stuff about how comics are made or the history of comics, that kind of stuff.
I love comic book history.
So that Scott Snyder's doing this, I think is awesome. I watched stuff with like Grant Morrison talking about their ideas of how to like create stories and all these people who have these very big imaginations and big ideas. I love that kind of stuff. So I'm definitely gonna be checking out this Scott Snyder.
Very cool. I did see that, and I'm not super creative, so it didn't register with me as much, but because I'm not a writer, I'm not any kind of creator, but you've done your own comics before, so like I can see how that would be really cool.
And it just gets me like it fuels me as I'm working too. Just to like hear people talk about making comics, it feels like it gets me excited to draw and work on comics.
Nice. And we have a comment here from Nurion84. Hey guys, new subscriber from the UK coming to Tennessee next March and can't wait.
Nice.
We'd love to have you. Are you coming to Chattanooga? Are you going to come to Chattanooga and visit our store? Even if you're not, you could be in the furthest part of Tennessee from us, and it's still worth the drive to come visit. We'll make it worth your while. We don't mean to brag, but we are the best shop in the state. I don't know if that's true. We're biased to say that. No,
it's true. If we didn't say it's true, then what are we doing?
Yeah, right.
But
we're like the 5th best. We're okay. We're maybe top 20.
We're fine riding there under the radar. No, that's awesome. Yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed Tennessee. I don't always mean to bring it back to like I just traveled this week.
We get it.
I know.
You went on vacation.
I've been so many places, and I still think that Tennessee is like one of the prettiest places.
I like it here.
With the mountains and everything. So a little biased, as born and raised here, but I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like James's idea. Let's do a mini documentary on Andy about his. Watch it.
It would be short. It would be very indecisive about things, and then it'd just be me sitting quietly watching YouTube videos, watching like comic tropes or Star Wars Explained weekly Q&A videos while I just like sit and be like draw something and be like, no. And
you could show like the Star Wars creatures you've created, and we can look at we could put up your entry on Wikipedia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is funny. I try to post on. I'm terrible at posting stuff on different social media because I don't really like doing that. But I've got some like old stuff, and it is fun to go back to really old stuff. And I remember, I don't know if I'm just cocky or whatever, but I look at something and I remember thinking, man, this is I'm as good as I'm ever gonna get. This is awesome. And I look at it, I'm like,
plateaued.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's bad. But at that point, like I must have hit some like milestone in my brain.
Well, in regards to that, I wanted to get this stuff because so Andy says that he's bad at posting stuff on social media, and every time we're done with a YouTube video, while we're waiting for it to upload, he doodles on our show notes, and so he has all of this awesome artwork that I'm like, oh my gosh, you should post that, you should sell that or whatever, and he's like, I mean, like, there's been
occasions I have thrown it across.
There's a pile of this just awesome artwork. Plastic. We got Plastic Man the Barbarian and Silver Surfer and Galactus with a weird face.
His head got blown off.
Spider-Man, Curse of the Were-Spider. I mean, like, there's so much. And then this, the big guys.
That was the first one.
I mean, golly.
I do want to at some point maybe do like a giveaway for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason why it should be sitting here.
It's literally just in a pile over there. All this great artwork. And it's just like, I mean, look at all that. I've been to dinner with him before where he like doodles on a napkin and it's so cool. I'm like, oh, did you take a picture of that? No.
No, I just left it on
I just left it there. And, for me, a non-creative who would love to be able to do stuff like that.
NC, as we call them.
Right. Oh, is that what you guys call us?
Yeah.
So Jeffrey, I agree. It's so good. Yeah, I mean, you have posted some of these on your Instagram before. I like that. So this was my idea, Wakanda. Now he thought of it. Like I thought of just the word, and then he like brought it to life. That's my only claim to this whole pile right here. But it's so cool. I mean, do you have your Man Thing? There's the Red Lantern Hulk.
Man Thing.
Yeah, Man Thing. Here it is. I love this Man Thing, where it's the Man Thing, but Rocky like the Thing. I mean, that's so good.
So it is. It's hard because I want to post stuff, but currently I'm working on something that hasn't been announced yet. And that's taking up all my time. And so it's like, it looks like I'm not doing anything, but I'm just doing a lot of things that I'm not allowed to talk about. But hopefully I saw some news that makes me think that I'll be able to announce it coming up within the next maybe couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that because I'd love to talk about all of that on here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That would be, stay tuned for that. We're going to cover all that stuff for sure. Oh, and Jeffrey, I didn't see. James would buy all that stuff.
Good.
Jeffrey is from Brisbane. I guess I have to. That's obligatory. My mom was born in Australia, right? I have to say that every time.
We all have our. Oh, you said the magic word.
Yeah.
Now I've got to say this.
You mentioned Australia. Well, my mom was born in Australia. I have family over there, and I love it there. No, but no, it's fun. But yeah, thank you for tuning in from across the world, I guess.
Yeah, and I love Bluey. That takes place in Australia.
Oh, does it really? I've never watched.
I think it's in Brisbane.
I've never watched Bluey before.
Bluey is fantastic, and I will fight people. I think it's for all ages, and especially, I'm not a parent, but if you're a parent, it probably hits you real hard.
Yeah,
and there's some really heavy episodes.
Oh wow. Are you drawing? No. Are you drawing Hush too?
Well, I am not drawing Hush. No. Unfortunately, no. That would be one Jim Lee drawing Hush too. But I'm game if someone else is.
Yeah. Oh, so Nurion says I'll be in Nashville for 10 days, but that sounds like an expensive Uber out to Chattanooga. Totally worth it.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is that we don't have any good like public transportation in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So like, it'd be awesome if we had like a commuter rail or something.
Oh no.
But we
how
don't.
How many decades have they been talking about high speed rail from here to Atlanta?
Every year,
forever.
That's what sucks because like being in Boston, we could go from Boston to Providence, Rhode Island, and Boston to Salem, and it was all on trains.
Yeah,
it's like, oh man, it'd be awesome to have that. But Nashville is awesome. My biggest thing, if you go to Nashville, Broadway's cool. Broadway is what everyone thinks of when they think of Nashville. It's just the street with like the neon signs and the boots and everything. But get off Broadway because there's really great stuff. That's like tourist Nashville, but there's some really awesome stuff in Nashville outside of that and some great food and everything. But that one strip is super expensive and everything.
Yeah.
Like if you live in Nashville, you don't go to that spot.
Right. But if you don't live there, you do.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Check it out, but also like spread your time around.
Slavic one. I can't do one well. I can do one, but not with native Australians on the image. So I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna embarrass myself or make them hate me.
Have an accent?
My mom, she's been here in America for like most of her life. She had like, I don't notice it, like you might, because you're not used, like I'm so used to hearing her. So her accent isn't as thick anymore, but unlike like Mel Gibson, like lost his, right?
Yeah.
My mom still has some, but I don't notice it as much. But people who have never met her, they do notice it. Yeah, James wants to be your social media manager. Oh,
please, I need one.
It would be hilarious if Andy leaving artwork around town and then being a local mystery. That would be cool.
Like a local Banksy type person.
Yeah.
My problem is I would leave art around and people would just pick it up and throw it in the trash.
Well, you did that up when you were on vacation. You drew Cthulhu. And then left it at the gravesite of H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, I did do that.
And I love the thought of, a groundskeeper coming with the spike and he just and puts it in the bag.
Just sweeps everything off.
Yeah. That would be awesome. Opinions on the Sentinel series. Hayden on TikTok wants to know.
So we've only got one issue of that out so far. I didn't get a chance to read it, but you read that for the show. I
read it, and it was all right. I'm not really sure where it's going yet, and I think it's only a mini series, but it was fine. It was characters that I didn't know in situations that I didn't really know like how big this was going to be, but it was fine. I do think it's one of those that you might need to give a couple issues before you can really.
Yeah, this From the Ashes era is really interesting because it seems like, we've got a couple of core books, and then it seems like they're just being like, and then this, and then this, and some hit better than others. I'll say I read Psylocke today.
Psylocke was great.
Psylocke was fantastic. Yeah. But I think that's also a good thing. Like somebody may like Sentinels, somebody may not like Sentinels, but there's enough X-Men books right now to go around.
Yeah,
and I think that's really cool. My only hope is I do hope it all is not just. I hope it means something. I hope it's not just there for the sake of
just to have a book.
Just to have a book. I hope the writer or whatever had a story they really wanted to tell, and that it, we get a satisfying arc to whatever series.
Jordan Smith, just stopping in, fellas. What's your book of the week? Just got my pull box. I mean, I'd have to say, it's the easy choice, Absolute Batman.
Absolute Batman. And if we're not saying the easy choices, I haven't read everything from this week since I was gone, but from the stuff I've read, if you took Absolute Batman off the board, I would say I might say Psylocke.
Psylocke was so good.
I think that was really, really good. And I thought the art was phenomenal in it. That was kind of the dark horse of the week that I didn't know I would like so much, and I really did.
Yeah, when they first announced that, I was thinking, okay, cool. I like Psylocke. Yeah. Everybody, especially like teenage boys in the 90s, we loved Psylocke. Everybody likes Psylocke, but I was thinking, okay, I don't really know what this will be. And I was floored by just how much I really enjoyed it. No, I didn't just like it. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, you've got G.I. Joe #1 this week, and you've got Absolute Batman #2. Those are going to be the ones that people are going to talk about from this week. Those carry the most gravitas. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking for like, I got my normal pull list. What else should I grab? I would say Psylocke for me.
I will say though.
Oh, and Black Lightning.
Black Lightning was good.
Really good.
Although I will say that of the 20 books I read this past weekend, of 20 of this week's books, if we're talking visuals alone, I think maybe Amazing Spider-Man 61 was because Ed McGuinness, right? I mean, I love Ed McGuinness. There was like all his other stuff. There was big action, big 2-page spreads, and it's not just little guys and panels. Like Spider-Man feels like he's coming off the page at you. So if we're talking just visuals, maybe Amazing Spider-Man, just because Ed McGuinness is.
Okay, I haven't read that one yet, but I'm excited to read it now that we're getting into kind of a new stage of Spider-Man.
Yeah, I had a lot of questions on that one on my own personal social media, and I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
You know, Amazing Spider-Man's been a little bit shaky for a while, but this one was interesting for sure. I made a video talking about how it kind of reminded me of when Spider-Man had Captain Universe's powers.
Oh yeah.
It's like I want Spider-Man to be a street level guy, but every now and then it's okay if he goes off on a different path just for a little while, not anything long term. Hayden says, I feel like it's hard to get into the Transformers universe. I'm too far behind. I've heard it's great. There's actually the Volume 2 trade paperback came out today, and that almost gets you caught up.
Yeah.
With the Transformers. And you know, if you want to read like the whole universe, you could start with G.I. Joe #1. You don't really need to, you don't really need to have read Duke, Cobra Commander. I recommend going back and reading those, but they're not required reading. If you start with G.I. Joe #1, then you could pretty much treat Cobra Commander, Duke, Scarlet, Destro as maybe like a prequel.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to have those before, but after you read G.I. Joe, you'll want to go back and read those because it's also good.
And for Transformers, if you also aren't like super, super familiar with everything Transformers, I'll say I read some of the quite a bit of the IDW Transformers before it switched over to Image, and I liked it, but there's so many characters. I did find it pretty daunting, and I didn't always know what was going on. So coming into the Image Transformers series by Daniel Warren Johnson, I know like a decent, probably a little bit more than your average person, names of Transformers and stuff, but I don't always know like what they transform into or what their personalities are. And that series does such a good job of like, hey, we will slowly introduce a lot of these concepts to you. And I think, you know, just Volume 1, Volume 2 Transformers, and you're good. Like, you can kind of go into that blind and be fine.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Mark Davis, watching you guys first and picking up my pull list. Looking forward to all those mentioned. And Arcbound, which Arcbound was really good too. I was pleasantly surprised with how much I liked it. I always thought it would be good, but the solicitation just made it sound really confusing because it was throwing out a lot of it was giving you character names, and it was throwing out like Zenitech mines for chromium, and I'm like, what is that? Well, I don't even know what you're talking about. But after reading the book, oh yeah, this makes sense, and I really like it. And you know, it's like got a little bit of a RoboCop feel to it, but I won't say how. But you know, it was set in the sci-fi future. Like I like that one quite a bit. Larry Smith says, "Hey guys, sorry I'm late. No problem. We can now get started. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 9 of our.
It's okay. We've just been sitting here.
Yeah, we've just been waiting for you to get here. Slavic One wants to know if we're gonna have a Black Friday online sale.
I'm not sure. I know we're getting ready for our in-store Black Friday sale, but stay tuned to like our social media stuff and everything. We'll be announcing everything to do with that because I don't personally know all the details right now, but. I know there's a lot of stuff in the works for Black Friday.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
You stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Mark Robinson, what cover artist would you love to see do sequential art in a comic? All of them.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I'd love to see John Jang do the guts of a book. Not sure if someone like Jenny Frizzle would be great at it.
I think, you know, every artist, if you can do covers, they do have, you know, art skills. There is a thing about like, you know, if you can draw, it doesn't mean you're going to be a great comic artist.
Yeah.
It's about storytelling.
You have to be able to like tell stories visually.
Yeah.
Direct somebody's eyes to a page. I say that like I'm an artist. I'm not, but I know comics, and you have to be able to like tell a story visually.
Yeah.
And
there's I would say there's definitely artists who are better at one than the other.
Yeah.
Like they would probably admit that. I would love to see what Jenny Frison would do. I think a lot of the artists we think now as cover artists actually had their start doing interior
for sure,
work.
Yeah.
You just may not be super familiar with it.
Yeah.
And stuff. I'm pretty sure, like, David Nakayama has done some interior work.
I was thinking him or Art Germ or maybe like Derek Chu, yeah. Maybe one of those guys. But
but usually their cover work doesn't always 100% reflect what their interior work looks like, because they do a different rendering stuff. If you look at Adam Hughes when he would do interior stuff, it's much different. It's much more flat. You still have a lot of the same expressions and everything, but it's definitely like, when they have one image to work on, they definitely flesh it out more. Because on interior pages, you don't want to do that level of detail. It can be distracting to the story. Plus you have to leave
places for the word balloons, and you have to fit it all into panels and stuff. You're restricted by size. So
yeah, but there definitely is. It take me a minute to think of, like, my favorite cover artists and what I would like to see them do. But I would say one thing is, I miss seeing J. Scott Campbell's interior work.
Yeah.
I really like, Danger Girl and that kind of stuff. I miss seeing him do interiors. There's a lot of artists now who've kind of graduated, for lack of a better term, to cover work that I miss seeing their interiors, and I'd love for them to go back. I'm excited for Hush too, because Jim Lee's only really been doing covers now for years.
A long time, yeah.
And I miss his interior work. So I'm very excited to see that as well.
That's a good one. John Boyd Myers. I've got Todd McFarlane. I would love to see Todd McFarlane do interiors again. I'm just thinking about, I look back over his Spider-Man stuff all the time, and it just looks so good, and early Spawn and stuff like that. I miss that.
Yeah, Todd McFarlane is an interesting one, because he's even done covers recently, and it's like, it doesn't quite look like him. I don't know if maybe he has someone different inking him or whatever, but his style has kind of shifted a little bit. And I'd love to see a little bit more of his classic, over the top comic style. But there's someone else I was just thinking of that I would love to see. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people that, they really now only get drawn back for like A-tier projects,
right.
Which is a shame. But also, I know cover art does pay more than an individual page. It has a higher kind of resale value if you do physical art. And I mean, to be fair, it is easier in the fact of it doesn't take quite as much, brain processing power. You basically have to come up with like a really good image for a cover. For interiors, it's a way more kind of a labor job of working through a script and everything.
That's because that's what and again, I'm not an artist, but just reading comics for 4 decades, like I can imagine that
we've established you're an NC, you're non
right. I'm an NC, that's right. But I can imagine, like, if you're a cover artist, you can think of this nice pretty pinup, whereas interiors, you have to be able to like interpret the script, and which I think comic artists don't get enough credit for. Everybody can visually see, they draw so well, and the interiors look beautiful. But I think the interior artists don't get enough credit at being able to interpret the writer's script and being able to make their words into pictures. You showed me the script, a couple scripts of things you worked on before, and as I was reading it, I was picturing something completely different, and then you showed me what you drew for. It was completely different than what I imagined. It was better because you're better at that. So that's being able to interpret something and visualize it in your head and then making it come to life. That's crazy talent. That's awesome.
I'm very artists that I don't say don't get enough recognition, but I don't think people even think of them enough, is like Mark Bagley, who's done so much interior work that just that level of being able to crank out work is incredible, especially interior work. So keep an eye out for really good interior artists that you read a book and you're like, wow, I wasn't confused by anything,
right?
Like how it was laid out or whatever. That's a lot of skill.
I used to, when the the DC Connect catalogs would come out, and I would always like fast forward real quick to whichever page had World's Finest on it, because I'm panicked. I'm terrified. I wake up in a cold sweat every day that today is going to be the day that Dan Mora stops doing interior pencils and just does covers. And that's but luckily, you know, he's gonna be on 2 books when Justice League comes out. He's also doing Superman. So I hope he never jumps to cover. I mean, selfishly, that's selfish.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I hope he never jumps to just covers because I love his interior so much. And every month, when it would say Dan Moore on pencils on World's Finest, I would we get one more month at least with him doing interior work. So that's gonna be a sad day when for me, not necessarily for him, but for me, whenever he does just interior, just covers.
Do you want to fix your puzzle?
Yeah, I got a puzzle piece on TikTok, so let me fix that real quick. Sorry, guys.
Being able to visually tell a story while imagining there are no speech bubbles is a good approach. You know, it's not only thinking about where there's, you know, you're visualizing something with no speech balloons or whatever, but of like looking at it and being like, how much space do I think this dialogue or whatever is going to allot in this thing? And I always like when I get a page, I like read over it and be like, I first want to see how many panels are they saying this is going to be, because that's going to dictate a lot of what I do. So before I even like jump into it, I look and like, okay, 5. So there's certain like, you know, grids you can think about, and then you can break them up from there. But there's a lot of like thinking about like 5 different things at once when you jump into working on a page.
Yeah, for sure. We got a few minutes left. We got another question that we wanted to talk about real quick. Our buddy Don Gleason wants to know, if given the task of writing a book that ends a character, who would it be and how? That's a really interesting question. I think maybe like I don't know why this popped in my head. This is kind of twisted, but I was thinking like maybe the end of somebody like Jimmy Olsen, and it's like Superman just barely didn't save him. Like he was so close to saving him. Like maybe Jimmy Olsen's dark. Yeah, maybe Jimmy Olsen's about to get shot, and Superman is like 1 second behind the bullet or something like that. Like, and that ends Jimmy Olsen. I don't know. And we've had stuff like that before. Like I think about Injustice when Superman actually accidentally killed Lois or things like that. But I just like, there's something about, you know, the tragedy of you were that close, and that's twisted.
Here's the easy answer. They say in Paul and Amazing
in Paul and Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, I would just not even devote time to Paul. I would just not ever write him again. Yeah, just mention it like in a one-off. Man, I was really sad when Paul died. Hey, you want to get lunch or something?
Turns out Paul was actually a supervillain, and he's gone now.
Yeah, he's weird. Yes.
So if I was to think, so one of the things I think of when I was like, how do you end a character? It doesn't always mean they die.
Mm-hmm.
How do you end? I think about that episode of Smallville where there was that character that could like touch you and you would see how you died or whatever, but she touched Superman and all she saw
was the cape and
him like flying through space and everything. And I love that like visual of like, because Superman doesn't end.
Yeah.
He you know, he may leave Earth, he may do all this stuff, but he's still on this trajectory of wherever he ends up, he's going to be Superman. I love that idea. And I feel like if I did a story for like Batman, it would be you end Batman and Dick Grayson, Nightwing, or maybe he's taken up the role of Batman at that time, like has some moment where where Bruce feels like the city's in good hands because I left it to, you know, one of my kids, or, you know, the city is now safe or something like that. Something, you know, a way to structure a story too is the ending is always good if it reflects the beginning.
Right.
So something where, you know, Batman's last thing is he dies stopping a mugger from killing a kid's parents.
Oh, wow.
And he goes like, that was worth it.
Yeah.
You know, something like that really reflects where they actually do feel like my goal is achieved.
I like to do this as much more positive than mine was. I want Jimmy Olsen to get shot and Superman just barely.
Superman just gets really depressed. And like, I've seen enough of that and stuff like Injustice and everything.
No, I love that though. Batman gets shot by a mugger, but not before he takes the mugger out and saves a kid and his parent. Like that's wow.
Yeah, and then even though there's like, you know, maybe Joker's still out there and everything, but he goes like, yeah, but this is why I was always doing that, is for this small moment
for this. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I got chills. Holy cow,
I feel like that's better than like
you've been thinking about that for a while.
I feel like that's better than like, and then I'm gonna fly into the sun. I'm gonna do this. Like, no, it means more if it gets personal at the end rather than climactic.
So, I love that. That's all I can think about now. That's how I want Batman to end.
And then Aquaman dies.
He drowns.
He on a lighthouse, and Superman wears a diaper and gets back into a little ship and launches back up into space.
Superman goes back to Krypton.
It only works in a couple of scenarios.
I found another Krypton, and everybody moved there. Everybody was fine.
Yeah,
Krypton. All of the planet Krypton has been alive this whole time.
I feel like that's also a funny story where he's like, that wasn't Krypton that exploded.
Yeah.
Oh, that was like its moon?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Oh, it's got 3 moons. It's fine. It doesn't need all 3 of them.
No one was living on it. It's good.
Holy cow. Wow. So yeah, sorry not to have much more of an answer than that, but Andy's idea for Batman, like that's the mic drop right there. That's awesome. And real quick, Jeffrey wants to know if X-Men sales have gone up after the Krakoan reboot.
Yeah, they have. I think a lot of people have seen it as a new entry point, which I think is the important part about it. I would say anybody who is reading it during the Krakoan era, I don't think we've had anyone drop off of it.
Okay.
And we've only added people. So if that's the barometer, I think it's worked out really well.
I started reading them with the Fall from the Ashes stuff.
Now, once you get past 3 to 5 issues, you will have some drop off here and there on different titles. But I think overall, the amount that has risen, it hasn't dropped below where it started. So I think across the board, X-Men books are higher than they were pre From the Ashes era. Yeah. Which I think is exactly what they wanted to happen. Nothing's ever going to like rise and continue to rise. It will hit a plateau at some point. But even if these books all plateau right now, they're all doing better.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. And I think I maybe think that they're rolling out X titles a bit fast. I would like to, had maybe a little bit longer with maybe the core 3 books or something like that. Because Marvel does have a way of cranking stuff out at a pace that feels like I can't quite keep up. But, we talked about Psylocke came out this week. We talked about the Magic #1 coming out, all of that. But as long as
Storm just got a #1.
Yeah. As long as you don't feel like you have to read everything, then I think you're good.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine. And as long as the quality stays up, which all of the books are high quality, then I think we're in for some great stuff.
Yeah, for sure. We are about out of time. I do want to answer this one real quick from Nurion. What's the quickest way to read what happened to Krakoa? If you want to read the whole thing, the good thing about the Krakoan era is they collected all of it in trades. There is the House of X Powers of 10.
Trades.
Like there's a hardcover that is required reading to start with. And then what's cool is they released these what they call Dawn of X trade paperbacks that actually, instead of collecting X-Men 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it collects X-Men #1, X-Factor #1, X-Force #1, whatever. And so those trades, reading through those trades, you're almost reading them as in the order that they came out. And then you go to 10 of Swords, and then there's Reign of X, and then there's
They said that's what's the quickest way, not what the way.
Yeah, I'm telling you to read everything, right?
Yeah. Stop reading comics.
Yeah.
For completionists, yes. Those collections are really nice, especially the order they did them in, and that they finished that, because I was so worried halfway through releasing those that they would just stop and you just have all these random trades with unfinished series. What happened to Krakoa? I don't know. I'm sure there's been some articles written. It's really hard to sum up in one thing. I don't even think you could read. Maybe you could read the, House and Powers and then the end of it.
Yeah.
But I would look for maybe some YouTube videos and stuff, because I wish I could tell you like, well, here's a great thing that catches you up. It was so big and complicated.
Yeah.
That I don't think there's a good way of summing it up other than the basic ideas of the X-Men worked out a way that they could bring mutants back to life.
Yeah. They were all on an island together.
All on the island of Krakoa, which is in itself a mutant. They had a great life. They set up a council. They were basically their own nation on there, the good guys and bad guys working together, but it was kind of a paradise, but that couldn't last because there's always going to be something that goes wrong. And
when something's too good to be true, it probably
in the story, the whole thing is kind of all the breaks that slowly happened up until you realize you can't have this paradise. But it involved a lot of stuff of like they had a council with like Apocalypse was on it along with Emma Frost. But it really deals with like you've got characters that have their own agendas, and without a unified vision, this couldn't happen. Do you need to know about it? You just need to know that it was a utopia they had that they lost. And
they're really upset about it.
They're really upset about it, but also maybe they did stuff while they were there that they regret. I know for Kitty Pryde, that's a big thing, that she went almost too far in her actions. There was all this stuff too about they had a way of like curing cancer and all that because of plants, but then they were withholding all of that until people recognized them as a nation. And I'll say all the mutants had a really good life on Krakoa, but they all were kind of bad. They were all kind of bad people. When
they weren't really heroic during that time. Is what that was my beef with it. They didn't feel like superheroes anymore.
No, so don't worry about it. If it's brought up, specific things, I think you could look it up pretty easily. But thankfully, From the Ashes has been pretty easy to not worry about.
They don't reference it too much. All right, guys, we got to hop off here. The store's about to close. I think you have to go close everything up, right?
Do I?
I don't know. There's anybody.
That'd be good to know.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. This has been so much fun just chatting with you guys. Again, this show is just a virtual hang out on New Comic Book Day, hanging out with all your buddies in the comic book store.
Yeah, we're standing on that famous beach shore of comic books.
But we will be back on Friday doing our Comics from the Future video, talking about all the books you can pre-order by this weekend. Of course, we have all our videos next Monday. This show will be on again in 2 weeks on the 27th. So that's Justice League Unlimited #1 day. We've both read it, and it's so good. We can talk about that.
There's going to be a lot to talk about on that
for sure. So yeah, November 27th is when this show comes back, but we have a whole bunch more videos between now and then. So guys, have a good night. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.